Yeah, you're really you're going big.
What bothers me about this whole process, though, is
Yeah, you have to
that the
talk to
mic.
get your claps in.
Yeah, I've got to do the talking to get my claps in because Discord's just too freaking good at canceling out the audio.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's a hot start.
Yeah, real hot. Anyway, hello everyone. Welcome back to the final episode of the Back Questions Worst Answers podcast. Each week, I, Connor, along with my friend Charlie,
That's my boy. That's my boy right there.
present a bad question to the others. Then we attempt to explore these bad questions with the worst answers. What's going on?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
Nah. Let's keep it rolling.
A few housekeeping things. Just keep looking out for the big guest. We got something booked huge. You guys.
My phone has been buzzing.
Yeah, it's
working out this guest.
Yeah, it'll be. You guys will be so surprised when you see it.
Yeah, I mean when you jump into the world of big A-list celebrities like we're kind of doing here, the scheduling just becomes like a whole new deal. You know, it always amazed me when I was like reading like the shitty IMDb trivia page, which at some point I'll have to do a rant on because it pisses me off. But it always angers me when I'm going through there and it'll be like some awesome movie that I love and it'll be like, you know, super A-list awesome actor turned down awesome role because they had scheduling conflicts with some dumb like TV show cameo or something like that. And I'm always like, how can it be that hard to schedule? You know, if you're a big Hollywood A-lister, like you've got to have final say control over that.
Yeah.
But man, if there's one thing we've learned, all the contractual stuff and the money that's flying around.
It's a hassle, but it's definitely worth it. It is. Yeah, it's worth it. Also, if you guys want to, I promoted this in the last video, and if you want to see what it looks like on someone, check the last video. But Charlie was talking about wearing the Tuesday ghost on your body.
And it just popped into my head last episode. I mean, we were just here talking.
The turnaround was surprisingly quick for how quickly we kind of teased it.
Yeah, honestly, your staff deserves some huge credit for that because I was just here kind of thinking like, man, that Tuesday Ghost kind of a cute guy, you know, like I'd like to slap him on my chest or something, and then boom, there he is.
So yeah, if you want to check that out, get a crew neck or a shirt or a hoodie, connorsgraveyard.com. Head over there.
We got a lot of Tuesday Ghosts to slap on different.
We got a lot to hand out.
He's a good guy.
Yeah, he is, and he looks good on the merch, and yeah, it's good.
That's what we want.
One thing I was kind of surprised by is how easy it is to register a website domain. Like all I did was just type in Connor's Graveyard and .com, and they were like, okay, $14. And I was like, whoa, okay.
That's awesome.
I was like, all right.
I had no idea.
Yeah, I own it for the year now. Like it's mine.
I was listening to I think a podcast. Oh, it was the Reply All podcast before they had their recent reckoning, we'll call it. But they did a really interesting episode on like website domains and these, you know, like the big umbrella companies that just like suck them up. Maybe it was phone numbers. Maybe I'm completely misplacing it. But either way, that whole business of domains is like a fascinating deal. Just like which ones are valuable and that kind of thing.
Yeah. Anyway, and then before we get into the questions, I have an interesting social interaction that I came across, and you know how we kind of on the pod we like to report on just kind of the these crazy situations we get ourselves into.
Just a couple of crazy guys.
We really just go all out. We're wild.
Just a couple of bamboozlers out there, just like making their day.
Yeah, we really goof around. So yeah.
Hit me with this goof.
Just hit me with it. All right, let's go. So when I go work out, like I'll walk.
Oh, you work out?
Yeah, I've lost 10 pounds in 3 months.
What?
And the hashtag Connor Fat No More.
Oh wow,
And the
that's a good one.
hashtag, yeah, the hashtag Connor Fat No More. I think I've
Anybody
actually
use
lost quite
that?
a bit of fat. I haven't really gained as much weight as I thought I would, because I kind of look the same, or maybe even better, I think, than I did around this time last year when I lost like 20 pounds. Um, but yeah, I don't know. Anyway, back, yeah, when I go to the gym, like there's like this sidewalk that kind of like loops into the villa area of the apartment complex to go to the
Hmm.
gym.
I'm
And
picturing
like
it.
right by that sidewalk is like, this car's parked, and there's always this black car with two dudes in there that just kind of like sitting there and uh presumably smoking weed.
Yeah, yeah.
But yeah, they're always in there, and every time there's always like a quick look that we give each
Hmm.
other.
Hmm.
And the other day, I I was walking like the same route, but this time like at, I think at like 4 in the afternoon, to go see if my leasing office was open. And they were like, yo 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 yo, what's your name? What's your name? Like, and they were like calling me out. And they were
Oh, I
like,
would have melted. I would have actually melted.
yeah, I was like, and then they were like, you give us $5 if we can guess your if we can guess your name right. And I was like, I don't have $5, but okay. And then they
Yeah,
were like,
yeah.
Ethan, Christian, uh, all these names, and they were like, does it start with a C? And I was like, yeah. And this one dude goes, Kyle. And then the other dude was like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, Kyle starts with a K. And they were like, what's your name? And I was like, Connor. And yeah, we were just talking a little bit, and I was like, why do you guys just like sit in your car out here,
Hmm.
like why are you loitering around?
Yeah, yeah.
And they were like, yeah, when you're smoking gas, like, you don't want to like stink up the apartment, have your roommates smell, so gotta go outside. And I was like, okay, well. And I was like, all right, well, goodbye. Like, and then yeah, they were very friendly and nice. And then um today, when I got home from my apartment, uh, I was like walking out, and I saw one of them. They were going into the car, and like I glanced, and I think like one of them also looked at me as well, just like a quick glance.
Yeah,
And then I
yeah.
immediately, I don't know why, I immediately put my head down, just like not wanting to talk to him. And
Oh,
I was like,
hmm.
and then like afterward, I was like, fuck, like these are like pretty cool guys that I would like
Yeah,
to,
they're bros.
yeah,
Yeah.
they're bros. And I was like, why did I do that? Like, I don't want to like come off like
Hmm.
I don't want to come off. Maybe I'm just like overthinking in my head, and like maybe that is has a lot to do with it. But I was just like, I really fucked this up. Like
Yeah.
I don't know. I
I,
might.
I completely empathize. I completely empathize because it's the kind of thing where, at least what would have been going through my mind is if I do a big like wave or like yell or something and they don't hear or like they don't recognize me or
Yeah,
something, it's like horrifyingly embarrassing.
yeah,
And that's what would happen to me in 90% of circumstances is I would try to do something good and it would just flop, and that would be horrible. But yeah, then you feel like a complete asshole when you
yeah,
you like didn't pull it off right. Yep.
yeah. Yeah, I should have like gave a wave or something, because I know that they know who I am now, and like I'll see them again. Like it's inevitable.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think I'll have to report back if they ever talk to me again. I wouldn't be surprised if they wouldn't, but
Yeah, this is a developing story, and we'll keep reporting on it in the coming weeks.
yeah,
But
I was
so
just
far,
mad
right
at
now, we're
myself. I
both.
was like, why did I? I was just like, why the fuck did I do this? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, I yeah. I mean, I think we've talked about it on the show at length before, but the old Pandaruski going on has not helped my social ability at all, and I can just feel it. I can
Yeah,
feel it when I'm communicating, with like strangers in any circumstance. Like my skills are just nothing anymore.
yeah,
Like it just totally fallen off.
it's
So
bad.
that's a shame.
Yeah.
Well, good luck, Connor.
Yeah,
You'll get him back. You'll win him back. You're a
I'll
charismatic
get him.
guy.
I'll get him next time.
Yeah, yeah. You're a lovable face,
Yeah.
a congenial fellow. They'll break down.
Yeah. I hope so. I'll report back next week if I get anything.
I can hopping back, just jumping back to the workout talk. This is big for me, so I want to build everyone up to understand the importance and significance of this. Over spring break, which was last week, I went on a run.
Whoa.
Went on a run with my friend. I've got a friend who's like a super bodybuilder, CrossFit, like slowly killing himself by working himself too hard at the age of 20. It's so obnoxious to watch because he's so fit and so athletic, and he just anyway. We don't need to get into the CrossFit deal, and there's some people that do it very well and whatever. But anyway, he's super fit, and I was hanging out with him a lot because we were both kind of the only two fellas in town, and I went on a run with him. And obviously, I had no intention of keeping up. I'm fairly fit just because I'm thin, but I don't really. I play a lot of spike ball, but I don't really work out.
Yeah.
So my endurance was shit, and I was just looking to get out and do it, stretch the old legs. And I ate a peanut butter and jelly sandwich before, which I remembered from doing track in middle school and stuff is pretty good. It sits okay. And so we were out there going, and I was actually going pretty well. I made it further than I thought. I think I only ran a mile and a half, which I understand is not at all significant, but it felt good just to get out, do some running. But man, the bread that I happened to have was this brioche stuff that I really felt good about myself spending big, but it was oily, super oily. And that caught up to me on the run. And I was just it killed me. I probably could have run twice as far as I did and just done way better, but this bread was just ruining me. So oily and sweet and everything, and that was killer. And then I literally could not move my legs for 3 days after the run.
Damn. That sucks.
I think of myself as somewhat in shape, but it was a real wake up call.
Yeah.
Just how dead I was.
Yeah, that I'm very slow and I don't really enjoy running all that much, but yeah, if I get back into running, I'll run once and then the next day I'll be out for a week. Just my legs will kill me.
Yeah, it was.
Did your CrossFit
comical.
guys stop? Did he stop when you stopped?
So we did. I think he ran about 3 miles. He did a mile and a half out, mile and a half back, and I probably did about a mile out and a mile back. He did 3.5 miles total, and I did about 3 miles total, but probably walked and ran half because I ran probably a solid mile in the beginning, and then just the bread came in with a vengeance at that point, and I'd run 250 feet and then be on the verge of throwing up and walk for 400. It was so sad and such an L, but I like running. I think it's I just can't do it alone. I need someone to get me out there to do it, but I kind of enjoy the deal of it. Just listening to some music, talking a little bit. It was good. But anyway, yeah, don't eat greasy bread. That's a sick BQWA tip.
Yeah.
And also you'll be super sore. I haven't been that sore in so long.
It's kind of fun to be sore though. I enjoy it.
It
sometimes.
Feels good. Yeah, it's satisfying.
Yeah.
Definitely. And it's the whole deal of it's the second day that's the worst. The second and third day after are the ones that are killer. I don't know why that is, but yeah. Run. Do some running and don't do the greasy bread. I think a PBJ is fine as long as it's not the greasy bread.
Yeah. Yeah, you're always safe with a Sara Lee white bread.
Oh yeah, some classic Sarah. She can't treat you wrong.
Yeah.
I've been trying to find good bread recently, and it's been nice. It's just
you gotta treat yourself sometimes.
Yeah. So yeah, there we go. We can jump into the questions. It's my question. I'll jump us into the questions here, Connor. So I've been. This is not a hot take, and I think it's important to start with an understanding of that. But I'm curious why um, music as an art form, as compared to like most others, like painting or writing or movies, seems to be like so focused on love. And maybe that's not the case. Like maybe you'd argue that's not the case, and somehow just like feels to me that way. But I feel like there's movies and stuff and books and things that focus on a million different subjects, and certainly there's music on tons of different stuff. But I feel like so much of it is romantic, and I'm curious why you think that might be, if you agree with it.
I think no, I do agree with it. I think just it's kind of like the universal language love is. But I think I think music is so like almost purely focused on emotion, and like yeah, you can like it is telling a story, but it's like there's I at least in my opinion, like in like the easiest and like the most like something that the audience and just like the artist can like both relate to is love. Like everyone can relate to that in some way, and like
Yeah.
yeah, and I think that's why it's like the most popular, because I think it hits. I think music hits on love in a very direct but unique way that like a movie or a book or uh like that can't do.
Yeah, there's something very visceral about music. Like that, yeah, just something like you feel it in a different way, and
Yeah.
that's what makes it so great. But maybe like as I was sort of laying out the question, I had a realization that like as much as there are millions of books and movies about things that have nothing to do with love, I think almost all of them have some form. Like the love
Yeah.
interest is a very typical thing, and when you see you see that thing between two characters in some sort of media, you can sense it. But with music, like you sort of touched on, it's tougher to have that. um you can't tell as deep of a story. You
Yeah.
couldn't tell There Will Be Blood in a 3.5 minute,
Yeah. And
you know three verses and a chorus. Like you can't do that. And so maybe it's that short thing that forces you into like what's the punchiest
yeah.
feeling.
And
And of course it's
I think it's the most emotional art form. It I think it evokes the most emotion out of
hmm
really any other medium, I think.
and maybe it's tough. Yeah, I think you're absolutely right. And just that way, it like there's something about music that like flows and hits you in a way nothing else does. And there's no one like there are people that say they don't like movies, and I think that's probably just because they haven't watched the right ones. But I think even so, like um there's more of a commitment to that, right? Like music is such a low barrier to entry.
Yeah.
It's not like 2.5 hours or something you have to throw down. It's like everybody can find it, and there's so many sounds out there.
Yeah.
Like there is music for everyone, and so maybe that like the accessibility of it makes it even more kind of lending itself to a universal
Yeah.
emotion.
I th- I think also music is like so like self-reflective, and like movies are like movies will like teach you something. Like
hmm
they'll teach you how to, you know, um learn you can like learn from a movie. And I think you can learn from like music, like a Kanye quote that I just came across. He was like, for all the bad stuff I did in my childhood, blame a Tribe Called Quest and a Wu-Tang Clan because they raised me. And um, but I think like music is very like self-reflective. Like
hmm
I forget. Like, have you heard like the I don't know if it's a statistic or like a quote or whatever, but like music uh music kind of reflects what we think of the world. Like, have you?
No, yeah, I think I've heard that in some form. Yeah,
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 and I think that's
yeah.
true. I think it's like very music is like the most self-reflective art form in a way that's like very direct, and I mean, yeah, you can find that. You can find that in any medium, but with the audience, it's self-reflective.
Yeah, and I think that's super true that it's meant to like connect you with something easier, right? Like I think that accessibility thing that I have, or like I'm realizing that accessibility thing plays a big role. You know, like
Yeah.
because anyone can get it, and because there's so much of it, um, it's maybe like easier to touch into love, and maybe like generalizing like music as being all about love is sort of like doing it a disservice, because love is so many different things, right?
Yeah.
Like it's there's a million different processes and emotions that come with it. So maybe it's kind of like an excessive generalization to say it's all about love, because love can mean so many different things, not
Yeah.
necessarily like different people, but like it can be such a
Yeah.
broad
It's a
swath
very
of
broad.
emotions, you know. So maybe that's a bit um disingenuous on my part. um I do wonder though, do you think, I think still that there's a like it's fair to say that the majority of it is love focused in some way, or like romance focused more
Yeah.
than other things. And do you think that that's like maybe not a problem with the medium, because that's kind of excessive, but like do you think there's something to that, like it maybe growth potentially being a good thing for that industry, or like
Like
expanding to other topics?
we move expand to other topics. Um I don't know, because I think we're like I think what's like the most consistent is like is that kind of emotion, like love.
Hmm.
Like we're always gonna have that. Like I'm sure all this coronavirus music isn't gonna hit that hard, and or no one's gonna talk about it that much in like or even like
That's
five
true.
5 years, because it's like it's like a sign of the times. Like
Yeah.
it's timely. But what's gonna be timeless is love.
Yeah, there's something eternal about that. Yeah, that's a really good point. And music does seem to be something where like most people are familiar with 80s music, right? But I don't think many people are like super familiar with like 80s movies maybe. You know? Like
Yeah.
your generic person, like I guess I think like college age person, like some,
Yeah.
just some
You're gonna
generic
like
college
know like
kid.
the John Hughes movies, and like did the Terminator come out? I can't remember what came out in the 80s, like Star Wars. Like you'll remember that.
Yeah, like you'll maybe be familiar with the big ones, and maybe that's, I guess, kind of true with music. Like you don't, you know, the big ones, but not the
Yeah.
nuanced stuff as much. But I there does seem, somehow to me, music does seem like more of a like consistent thread, and maybe it's because there's sort of like the constant themes throughout it. Like it seems like more of a
Yeah.
constantly growing and changing thing that everyone's familiar with than
Yeah.
movies, where they're like kind of standoff.
Yeah. I mean, why do you think people are
Standoff.
Yeah, I mean, why do you think people are playing Last Christmas by Wham every Christmas? Like it's
Yeah,
about Christmas, and
that's
it's
true.
about love. It also came out from the 80s too.
Yeah, it's weird to think about. We were talking about this a little bit before the pod in a different context, but um, the way like different art forms seem to age, and like we were talking about in the
Yeah.
context of people don't, and maybe you were sort of mentioning this, and maybe we can kind of jump into it, but you were talking about how people talk about how like old music was well, maybe you should explain it, like maybe it's best
Yeah,
to you introduce it.
I had a conversation with like my girlfriend and her roommates and like some of their friends, and like they're very like diehard, like the Beatles are the best fucking artists like that ever were, like Fleetwood
Uh-huh.
Mac, like Led Zeppelin, like Joni Mitchell, all these
Hmm.
like 60s artists, and they were like, man, just like new music fucking sucks. Like why can't we things just be
Yeah.
like the Beatles, where everything was just pure chaos, and like um and and then like I was like literally the only one that brought up this argument. I was like, well, like I think we should move on from like those artists. Like I think, I mean, there needs to be, if you guys are really so focused on the Beatles, like then we have a problem. Like there's a
Yeah.
problem if
Yeah.
like if like we think that if we're still hanging on to the Beatles by a thread. Like I think that's like, well, let's focus, let's find something new. And and they were like, but like you can't like make something new without looking back on the past. And I was like, okay,
Yeah, and yeah, and we were. I think putting it like relating it to a different context, and I think it's easiest for us to do movies because like that's what we're most familiar with as
yeah,
an alternative. But like as much as there are people that are looking back and saying like, you know, uh, I think there are people. No one's saying '80s movies are bad, right? Like
yeah,
some of the best ever came out then, and there's great elements of them that maybe new movies don't have. But I don't think anybody's looking back at movies from 30 years ago, or like the old talkies and stuff from the 1910s, or like the famous train comes into
yeah,
station thing. Nobody's looking at that stuff and saying like, man, we gotta get back to train comes into station, like
yeah,
that was film. No,
yeah,
nobody's doing that. And if you are, if you're looking back and saying like, man, that 80s stuff was good and this stuff doesn't have the same magic, I think that's more of a problem with individual movies or something that
yeah,
are leaning too hard into special effects or whatever it
yeah.
might be.
I
Like,
mean, yeah. I think there's like a sort of like a big movement that kind of like Martin Scorsese has kind of talked about. Um,
cinema.
yeah, we're gonna bring this in, or
Yeah.
at least I am. And I think I talked about this on the pod a little bit, too, but just kind of like how, and I'm just regurgitating something off of another podcast, which is basically every Gen Z person right now. Anyway, like just kind of like everyone's looking back at like the 70s and kind of like that renaissance of film in the 70s, and kind of like how Martin Scorsese talks about how like these Marvel movies and like kind of like what's coming out today are like these theme park rides, and like
Hmm. Huh.
they're not
Yeah.
actual movies. Like they're just like um it's like just content at this point. It's not like a
Hmm.
movie. It's content. Like, and I
Yeah.
think there's a very distinct difference between those two, and
But that's what I would say to someone who's looking at I don't know, a generic Marvel movie, like a
yeah,
Thor movie or something, saying like it doesn't have the same like magic of a Star Wars movie. And I
yeah,
think an important thing to realize is that Star Wars is a total needle in the haystack. Like
yeah,
it just happened to take off. I mean, there were a million
yeah,
really shitty movies in the '80s that were very similar to it and
yeah,
didn't, right? Like so you're comparing it to a property that got very lucky and is of
yeah,
course like one of the biggest things ever. Like it's an unfair comparison, and also I think you're saying you're looking at just a generic like content thing. Like there are good movies now that are as good, if not better, in whatever respect
yeah,
than something that came out in whatever other time period, right? Like it's
yeah,
just about finding the right thing to fit you. I don't like the Thor movies or most of the Marvel stuff. It's not for me, but I don't begrudge anyone else for
yeah.
liking it.
It's yeah. Like I guess the main argument with that take, and I guess like the reasoning behind it, is like, yeah, there are like some great movies out there, but like everything right now is just kind of like banked on nostalgia. Like what makes Marvel's Endgame so great is that we kind of were have this fuck, what is it called, it's a syndrome. It's like not Sherlock,
I'm just gonna hang out here. Stockholm
It's
syndrome. Is that what you're
Stockholm
talking?
syndrome.
Yeah.
Yes, Stockholm. We have like this Stockholm syndrome with Marvel where we just we think this is so great because we just been conditioned to.
Mm-hmm.
And like
Mm-hmm.
I think the first Iron Man film is like a great movie on its own. Like
Yeah, there are definitely some really good ones
yeah,
sprinkled in. And I think again, someone who's willing to generalize like Marvel movie bad,
yeah,
like that's also missing the point. Like they're all individual properties, and
yeah,
you know some are going to fit you if for no
yeah,
other reason than there's too many for you to
yeah,
hate all of
yeah.
them.
But like the blockbusters today are like Captain Marvel and Avengers, and like I guess like back then the blockbusters were more like original
Yeah.
films, I guess, like like Scorsese movies or like Scorsese's, talking about Fellini's 8.5, and I don't know,
Yeah.
and like the argument behind a lot of that is because like the reason why we're so focused on this nostalgia is because like for some reason like we're incapable of kind of like reflecting on our current time right now, just because it's, I don't know. I feel like I talked about this on a previous podcast.
I that's an interesting take, and I haven't heard that, and I don't know that I'd necessarily. Well, I guess back, like I was gonna say, like a lot of '80s movies, in the same way you have a lot of superhero movies now. A lot of stuff back then was like mobby and gangy, and I
Yeah.
bet there were people saying similar things, like, "Man, can we get something that isn't just another Godfather or Goodfellas or
Yeah.
like just Donnie Brasco, like a million different things like that." That might have come out later than that time period, but still. Um, I think maybe we're just in a phase of this right now, and eventually we'll move on. And I think
Yeah.
you see studios, uh, if you're Disney right now, and your goal is or Netflix, and your goal is to make money on the biggest range possible, you're going to make one of those movies. It's like just a guaranteed. Like I talk about this all the time, how much it pisses me off. Just the straight down like home plate, right in the what do you fuck the strike zone, like right in the middle of the strike zone,
Yeah.
straight up the middle, easy hit, right? Like to make that if your goal is to make money, you're doing that.
Yeah.
But that's what allows studios like A24 that way too many people just nut over all their shit. But that's what lets people like people like them move
Yeah.
in and make really interesting and
Yeah.
unique stuff. I don't want to shit on A24. I like a lot of their stuff, but I can't
No,
stand
yeah.
that. Oh, it's an A24 movie.
Yeah, I love I love a lot of their movies, but I hate the fucking stigma behind it. But it's weird because like there's a type of movie that an A24 movie is now.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's a type that, and I think it is like a good, like this is like kind of against the grain of like what's happening in film, but like there's something like sanitized. I don't know why I feel this way, but there's something about something so sanitized about like everything that's like coming out, like at least like kind of like in the past like couple years, I guess. Like I don't know, there's something like that feels more raw about I don't know,
Yeah,
about
and
like previous films, or I'm not talking about music, but just like films. Like there's certain like rawness and kind of
I would say the
style.
same thing about music. I mean, I'm I'm big on the team of your girlfriend and that group were you discussing of loving that old music. I mean, that's primarily
Yeah.
what I listen to, but I would argue like that was just a jumping off point from what was happening then, and what's happening now is a jumping off point from what's happening now. And in the same way that like an A24 or something is maybe getting back to a little bit more of that grittiness or riskiness or something of other movies. Like there are musical artists now, or if there aren't, there will be, that find that niche of going back to that like rawer sound.
Yeah.
Like that's one of the things that really I can't get into about new music is just how polished it is. I love that you can go back and you can hear the Beatles like counting in, and you can it's all they're in the same room and you can feel that and hear that. Like that's a magic, and someone will capture that. But I think to say that like we'd peaked back then is like regressive and missing the point. Like,
and I think I think there'll always be like a swing of of just like great and like kind of shitty periods. It's weird though, because like
Yeah.
I don't know why, for some reason like 2016 didn't really feel like this. Like it's only been like the past like 2 years or so, like just like everything is there's like kind of like what I was talking about in the Brett podcast. Like there's sort of like a magic that's kind
Mm-hmm.
of just like not here. It may like maybe it'll bounce back with with like
Of course it will.
with
Yeah.
COVID cleaning up, like like I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, like you said a quote before the pod, and again, I'm going to try and steal your thunder here, but it was basically like the like music reflects the times, like music
Yeah,
reflects our lives. It's the old like art imitates life or life
yeah,
imitates art, that kind of bullshit. Um, not I think it's true, but like, um, like there's people talk all the time about good years for movies. Like
yeah.
1999 is like revered as probably
Oh
one of the best
yeah,
years of all time for movies. And then
yeah.
there's like the mid 2000s were
Oh yeah, like
bad. Like
yeah,
there's just not a lot of good from there. And that's just part of it. Like things will
yeah,
fade in and out, and like we were in a whatever happened in the last 2 years was a bad period for music. I guess if that's the thesis we're going on, that's fine, but there'll be a time where it comes back. Like
yeah,
that's just how art works. Like there's good eras, there's bad eras. Um, yeah, and we'll look back maybe 30, 40 years from now, you look back and you say like, "Oh, that was the abstract expressionism period of
yeah,
music," and then that was there this, these 2 years were transition period between X and Y. I have
yeah.
no idea
That's a
what
good
what
point.
you'd call musical styles, but I just think it fades. And anyone who's like, oh man, another one that I hate is the whole like I was born in the wrong decade thing. That pisses
Oh
me off
yeah.
so much.
I wish I just could just go back to the '70s and meet Stevie
Yeah,
Nicks and just
yeah.
yeah,
Dude, I wish that I was alive in the 60s, like my age in the 60s, and could have like appreciated the Beatles and
yeah,
stuff. But at the same time, a huge part of the reason I'm into the Beatles is because whenever I decided to do that, it was because it was like not normal, Like
yeah,
if I were alive in the 60s, I would probably be into 40s music or something just to be cool,
yeah,
like edgy. I don't know. I just think that's again like missing the point. Like there's nothing, you don't gain or lose anything from liking old music. Like
yeah.
yes, it'd be great to see a Beatles concert, but that's not how things work. Like
Yeah. I don't know. I think it's like, although it's like I don't know. In my opinion, like I think it's like cool to kind of like listen to older stuff and like kind of like look back on that. But I think like there's a problem when you kind of get stuck in there. I think it's always important to keep on the new,
mhm.
keep on the front lines of what's happening, um, and finding like what's new and like what's interesting about it.
Yeah, and that's been a really exciting thing for me. I got in what was a very publicized move last year. I switched from Google Play Music to Spotify.
I do
I was
remember
one of the
that. Yeah,
12 people on that platform, and I decided to jump ship to Spotify because Google ended it. And that's been awesome for me. Like I've been able to find and discover a lot of newer music that
yeah,
I'm into and fits my vibe. Like it's not like I've had to like, oh, there's nothing good for me anymore.
yeah,
Like the Beatles aren't a thing, or Stevie Nicks isn't producing
yeah.
much. Like
And it's
I
not like
didn't
you're
have
gonna
to run.
find like alternative bands of like the Who. Like I'm sure in the '70s they were like, oh, if you like the Who, you'll like this.
Yeah,
Like you're
yeah.
not gonna find that like now because the cream rose to the top. You got like the Who, Led Zeppelin, Pink Floyd,
Hmm.
the Rolling Stones, and it's
Yeah,
like
it's really easy to look back on that and say, wow, that music was so good because the artists that we know are like the six greatest
yeah,
ever, from that
exactly.
period, right?
Yeah,
And so when our kids are looking back at the 2000s, they won't have to filter through all the shit that
yeah,
we do right now.
yeah. They'll
They'll just be like,
probably
oh man, yeah,
yeah they'll be like
Rihanna, like
yeah
that's crazy.
Rihanna, Justin Bieber, like Kendrick
Yeah,
Lamar, like oh wow, yeah. And like my dad has like all these like punk records of punk bands that like I don't even like the only punk bands I know that he has in that collection are like the Dead Kennedys, uh, and like the Cure. and like that's like and like a Misfits record, I think, and like
Uh-huh.
those are the only punk bands that I know because that's kind of like what was revered as the best during that time.
Yeah. Yeah. I just yeah. I think it's easy to feel like disenfranchised maybe from like the art culture around you and that kind of a thing. And I think first of all, like that should inspire you to go and create your own, right?
Yeah,
Like there's never been an easier time to create art of literally any medium.
yeah,
And right now, if you sell it as an NFT, you could be a millionaire for zero effort
yeah.
at all.
Tuesday Ghost NFT sells for $1 million.
um, yeah, I think that's a big thing, and I think another thing that I've realized on Spotify and has always been a focus for me is the old like it's I think it's a thing people are like largely familiar with, even if they don't haven't like heard it. But the whole deal that like your music taste is basically determined by whatever you like listen to when you're 35. Like you're not going to expand from there or something. It's the
Yeah,
stat. Like you'll basically only listen to that for the rest of your life.
yeah.
And for me, that's been like a big driver to like keep pushing. Like
Hmm.
find as much new music and get into as much new stuff as I can. And we talked about this a few episodes when Brett was on. We're like, you were in a rut, and we were like, just seek out new,
Yeah,
like find something new, get into some new stuff. And I think that's great advice, really, no matter like what situation you're in,
yeah,
but especially if you're not feeling it with whatever music, like it's out there. Just
yeah.
find it, go.
I have to pee so bad. Do you want to clap us out and
Let's
promote
clap
our
it out.
stuff?
Oh wait, okay. I'm not clapping it out yet. Okay, Connor's dipping. We want to promote the Discord. You got to hop in the Discord. You can give us your thoughts on music. We got that going on. We keep updates going on in there. Obviously, if you're not subscribed to Connor or the BQWA, get in there, right? Like it's a zero effort thing. It takes nothing from you, and it makes Connor feel good. And I could give a shit, but do it for Connor. He really needs it, guys. He needs this. He deserves that boost. So hop in there, do that. Follow him on Twitter. I don't really know if he plugs that, but he absolutely should. So keep that going. I got really nothing going on as usual. But yeah, hop in that Discord.
The
Hop in that
Tuesday
Discord.
Ghost. Buy the Tuesday Ghost.
Get chatting with us. Get chatting with us. Get on the merch. That's what we need. Here we go. Big guest. Big guest coming.
Big guest coming up. You're not gonna believe it.
I don't want to say Brad Pitt, but I did just say Brad Pitt.